Hello and welcome back to 100% Real with Ruby. Today I have Jimmy Nutrition as per his Instagram Instagram handle, but Jim Hallinan, and there is so much I want to talk about in this episode, but it's all related around the same seed, I guess. It's the same seed of why create, it's not about habits, because habits you can easily fall out of if you haven't yet created the identity and the environment that facilitates those habits. Because without the right environment, those habits can easily fall to the wayside. And without bringing your mindset with you, which, as you know, my saying is your default settings are bullshit. If you don't update your hardware, the habits are going to disappear once the phone cocks it, or, you change, you go into an environment where people are now influencing you to use your phone in a different way. So it's really important that the hardware on your phone is updated to meet that. But beyond that, it's why we fear hard, and why do we keep ourselves staying in the same old cycle? Because we know that it's not working for us, but we keep doing it. So I think that's a great way for Jimmy to introduce himself, because that's something he talks about a lot. Like, why the hell do we keep ourselves doing the same shit when we know that that same shit is making us feel like shit?
Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's exciting, even just talking to somebody across the globe. My aunt actually lives in Australia, in Adelaide, right? Adelaide. That's the city. But yeah, what you just said about why do we do the same things over and over again, and I've talked about this a decent amount, on my Instagram and in my Facebook group, that's what our brain wants. Our brain wants familiarity. I think it's super important for people to understand that that's what our brain craves, and it does not matter if that familiarity is uncomfortable or comfortable. It could be destructive, but our brain knows the pattern. And that's why you see people who had maybe a really rough childhood, an abusive childhood, get into these abusive relationships, because their brain is familiar with that. So it can be a toxic environment, it can be a bad habit, but our brain just simply craves familiarity. So it's incredibly difficult to try to break habits, bad habits or bad environments or whatever cycles that we're in. And that's where I'll talk a lot about just slowly changing the course of the track. You're not going to take a train at full speed and do a 90-degree turn, never mind a 180-degree turn, which we're trying to do with our lifestyle. So it's this slow process, because our brains are plastic and they can be changed in terms of what becomes a new familiar thing. But you do something too quick, too drastic, our brain's going to fight us, and it's going to go right back to those old ways, those old patterns, because those old patterns are familiar. And that's the hardest thing to break for all of us.
Yeah, it's kind of like the elastic spring effect, where if you pull it too fast, it just bounces back. But then if you pull it too fast, but then take that unsustainable, stupid, whatever, too long, you're going to deform the plastic, and you're going to make it even harder for yourself to come back. So instead of sprinting 10 miles in and then getting catapulted, you're sprinting friggin' a marathon. You're gonna break your legs sprinting a marathon. So it's really important to keep in mind that what he just said, that's your environment, that's the people you interact with, that's all the stuff that has created who you are. And when we go through different patterns that are literally sabotaging us, we then tend to form patterns in a way to cope with it, like a coping mechanism. And they're usually coping mechanisms that leave us, I guess, doing shell-like things. Like, we just do things for external motivation, which is where I spoke about before, where I was just chasing, I just want to get this comp rep. Like, that's all I care about. Comp rep done, cool, next one. Cool, next one. Like, I didn't care that I was sabotaging myself in the process. I didn't care that my relationship with my body and with my food was going down the trash can. And by the end of 8 comps in 2 years, I didn't even want to leave my leanness state, because being like thick skin lean or whatever lean I was, like even just the slightest bit fatter in quote marks made me feel like I was putting on too much weight. Like that is the kind of shit that we put on ourselves because we don't come to it with the right motivation, which is kind of like, be careful where you plant your seed. And that's something I'm going to let Jimmy take a little splash at.
Well, no, I think what you just said, it definitely made me think that people a lot of times don't really know, and you were talking about this just in your live before we got on, people don't really know what their goal is. They just focus on weight loss, and that's what you were talking about, because I caught a little bit of it. We're just so focused on weight loss because we think that if we lose weight, we're going to be happier. Our life is going to be better. And when that's the only focus and the only goal, we're missing all these other things. Just like when you're prepping for comp, that's the goal. There's consequences that come with that. And a lot of people don't even understand the feeling when you do get lean, the insecurities, like what you just said, the insecurities that come with that when you're not lean, and it's brutal, especially when you're in the space as a coach. At least in my head, I don't know what other people think, but in my head, I assume that other people have an expectation of how I should look when I take my shirt off. And sometimes of the year it looks good, and other times of the year it does not. But you have a t-shirt that fits just right. So they think that you're looking lean and jacked all the time. And then we get these insecurities because we're not as lean as we used to be. But yeah, so once people really figure out the goal, if the goal is to actually be happy, we don't have to focus so much on the scale. But when we're just focusing on the scale, thinking we're going to be happy, we can miss a lot of things that cause a lot of consequences that weren't planned. So I think when people can really wrap their head around, my goal is to be happy at the end of, maybe I think I'm going to be there when I'm lean. Let's start to focus on being happy, being healthy, eating foods that make us feel good, recognizing these foods that make us feel like shit. Like we were talking about before this, about the protein bars and the bloating and whatnot, figuring out those things and knowing, hey, this stuff makes me feel happy. And I talk about how people, they think they're going to have a certain lifestyle when they lose weight. They're picturing themselves being happy and going out and doing hikes and all this stuff. And it's like, if you're not doing that now, what makes you think you're going to do that when you get that body that you're shooting for? But yeah, so I don't know, it just made me think of that, but I know you were talking about setting up the environment, but it looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, that is actually really, like there are two sides to that coin. Like when I get there are two ways to take this. Like thinking that thought can ever like it can stop you from even starting, because you think, oh my God, this is almost like, yes, we're bringing in another topic. You're gonna take this one really well. It's bringing in that fear of success, but people don't see, like, saying fear of success is kind of a stupid thing, and it's something that no one really understands. So I don't even say that. And what I want you to realize is, when you're fearing this other side, it's because it's like, oh my God, I can't imagine being in this place. I can't imagine what's going to happen then. There's no way I can keep that up. I'm going to fail. I'm going to slide back. I can't do all these things. How the hell am I going to manage all this stuff? It's like we're prophesizing something before we even began. It's like, it's almost like, yeah, can't do that. What's the point trying? I can't be that perfect. I can't do it right. I spoke about this in my last few posts on me starting boxing. Oh my God, I'm never going to do this. I can't pivot my foot. I always forget. I keep forgetting to twist my waist. I have a history of dropping out of things and quitting all the time because I couldn't remember choreography. I couldn't remember the routine of things I needed to do because that's not where my brain worked. And then I remember getting forced to do things that didn't serve my purpose and my values. So then I didn't want to continue them. Like once I got, because I had to memorize piano, I did piano up until grade 7 and I never completed it to get the complete, because you had to do 8 grades. I never got grade 8 because I was sick of, this actually is going to lead into something really well. This is really good. So I used to get rewarded in terms of, I get to have a Milky Bar. Milky Bars were my reward. I got to actually go out, but I could never go out. I could never socialize. I could never talk on the phone back when we talked on the friggin' cord phones that were attached to the walls. I could never call my friends. I could never eat my Milky Bars that I was obsessed with if I didn't practice my piano. So that's almost like us rewarding ourselves for weight goals only or for outcomes only, to the point where we stop enjoying the process. And this is where I talk about I became a shell. I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Oh, I can't be a bodybuilder anymore because I can't stand the way that I'm living my life. Let's become a powerlifter. I attached myself to that identity. Yeah, cool. I set records. I did really well until I felt lost again. And then what? Like, I lost myself and everything felt like I was a slave to the process. I'm like, I'm not motivated for this anymore. I still showed up because it's what I do, but I hated it.
Yeah, and that reminds me of like when I say that if you're trying to lose weight, to get that compliment maybe from somebody, we love the attention we get from the compliment. Wow, you look great. Well, people aren't going to say that every single day to you for the rest of your life. Just like if you accomplish something with powerlifting, great, you had a lot of success, it was wonderful. Well, that's gone once the competition's over, and now it's like, what's the next thing? Make sense?
Yeah. And that just reminded me of a conversation I had tying into that, where one of my girls was just like, I was so used to getting all the compliments of losing the weight.
Yep.
And then we become attached to that. And then as soon as, like, you can't just keep losing weight forever. And this is why you need to get so clear on your why, because if all you do is focus on weight loss, you're missing the whole picture, because weight loss is a small portion of it. It's not the goal. So now you're struggling to even eat more, to stop dieting, to put on muscle, to rebuild your metabolism, your happiness, your relationship with food, because you're clinging on to that dopamine. And that's the other side of the coin where I said, when I get there, yeah, you can get there. That's the dopamine rush. But then what? And you alluded to this before, like attaching to an outcome. And this is where I wrote a post about, like, it's almost like prepping for a wedding. Your whole life isn't focused on actual life itself. It's focused on the wedding day. And then what happens after the wedding? You forget how to like live your life. And it's like, oh my God, I have post-wedding blues. It's the same shit.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. We definitely, it's that, it seems like the overriding theme is that not really having a true grasp on what the goal is. We're diluted in what we think the goal is and what it's going to give us. You know, like you had said, like we think we're going to be happy at the end of it. Well, if the goal is to be happy, let's choose to be happy now. Let's choose to do things that make us feel good now and feel accomplished, because those compliments will end. And that goal, once you get there, cool, then you're just constantly chasing the next thing. But one of the things you said before about this fear of success, and it does sound like such a stupid thing to say. Like, what do you mean you're afraid of success? But I think a lot of people, whether they don't realize it, there is a fear of success and what comes with that. I mean, if you were to pursue success professionally, it's scary because now there's maybe more responsibility. Maybe you have a ton of employees. Maybe your time, you don't have a 35, 40-hour work week. You have an 80-hour work week. There are things that come along with success. And in terms of a transformation of your lifestyle, it might be losing some friends. I think a lot of people are afraid that people won't think they're as fun if they're not out just eating and drinking and partying with them. So there is a fear of success with that.
But that's almost like, I just want to think of this as Google Maps. It's almost like you pick up the person and then you plot them to the destination. It doesn't work that way in real life. You need to drive the distance there. And in driving the distance there, you become the person. Shit happens organically. It is not forced. It is not something that you now need to figure all the shit out, because you become that person in the process.
Well, and plus it's still, yeah, and it's still external validation. Even if you have a fear of maybe losing friends or people thinking that you're not as fun anymore, it's still external validation. You're looking for those other people to accept you. You know, like people make the comments all the time, like, oh, like you don't, whatever. I'm like, I don't care what you think if I'm not as fun as you want me to be. I don't care if I'm as cool as you want me to be. I just saw something where somebody on Instagram, she was saying like, you're too much. Like when people say you're too much, and her thing is, well, then find less. Find something less. If I'm too much for you, find less. And I thought that was such a cool way to look at it. You're not looking for these other people's validation. Yep. If I'm too much for you, then find less. I'm not for you. I'm not your cup of tea. Peace out. It's all good. And when you find that internal validation instead of the external, does make this process much easier. When you know your why, you know, it's easy to say that, what's your why? But when you really do kind of understand your why, then it makes it easier. I want things to be easier in my life. I want to be able to go up a flight of stairs and not have to breathe heavy. I want to be able to carry a lot of groceries at once. I want to be able to shovel my neighbor's driveway who's 90 years old and help them out. And that's the stuff that I'm able to do if I take care of myself.
Yeah. And I think a lot of shit gets said too much that it loses its value, which is why which is why it is important to not just look at external whys, because that is shallow. How do you want to feel, and how is your life going to change because of that? I had a conversation with a girl who was arguing with me with the fact that she wanted to lose friggin' 20 kilos. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, why? Like, why are you giving me this number? She's like, oh, because I feel like scientifically it's a good weight to lose. I'm like, but what is with the number? Why are you training? Why do you go to the gym? She's like, I hate being in pain all the time, and I don't even have energy. And then she goes on to all these things like she doesn't have energy for the kids. She doesn't have time for the kids because she just wants to lie in bed. She's in pain all the time. I'm like, so that's the goal. And she's like, yeah, but I want to lose 20 kilos. I'm like, yeah. That's not the goal. You'll lose the weight and you'll get the body in the process of trying to achieve those things. But people think that it's almost like when people say self-compassion is, and then they think that they're just going to get fat because they're being kind to themselves. It's like, no. You can do both at once. It's called focusing on the outcome focusing on the outcome in the terms of breaking it down into what is that outcome, but then how do I want to feel along the way? And in doing these things along the way, that's the outcome. Because these things are going to expand and you're not just going to get plopped onto Google Maps.
Yeah. And I hate the whole, if you love yourself, you wouldn't feel the need to change. Well, I posted about this before. If I love myself, I'm going to take care of myself. If I love my car, I'm going to wash my car. I'm going to change the oil. I'm going to make sure the tires are good. If I love my house, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to put work into those things. If you love your spouse or your child, you're going to put the work into to take care of that relationship. And it's the same thing with us. But what people do with themselves is love yourself. You don't have to change. You don't have to work out. You don't have to worry about your body. It's like, no, if you love yourself, you should be worried about your body. The whole love yourself to health, not hate yourself to death kind of a thing.
I just tagged you in a reel I did. I accidentally hid it from my profile. So I'm going to actually say it here because no one will be able to find it because it's in my hidden ones. But I went on a massive yesterday. Like, I lost my shit in the morning because someone was complaining about being in menopause and how they feel so uncomfortable and they're packing on the pounds and nothing can seem to shift. And I just got so mad because the comments in there were, she's training 4 times a week with 1 conditioning session. Oh, you're training too hard. Try train with less intensity. Literally, she just said no context except what I just said, plus 4 days weights, 1 day conditioning. That's all she said. Oh, you're training too hard. Maybe you should train softer and be kind to yourself and rest more. Eat up, buttercup. You're eating too little. You're just going to have to accept the weight gain and start to realize all that you gain now. And then the one that actually got to me was, fat isn't determinant of your worth. Focus on your loved ones. That's what matters. And I'm sure they're proud of you. She did not ask for that friggin' Frank, like, fuck off. Like, that annoys me because I asked her.
So who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for you or are you doing it for your loved ones? If you're doing it for you.
She's expressing how uncomfortable she feels.
Yeah.
But I asked one question and that's, but the thing here is there is no such thing as your maintenance, like your metabolism dropping because you're getting older. How much are you moving outside of the gym? And she's like, oh, that's probably it. Now I'm sedentary. I'm like, there we go.
Stress levels are higher. There's so many factors that cause that stuff. But yeah, we're absolutely moving a lot less, probably eating more crap, potentially stress eating, not getting enough sleep. Or if somebody's chronically dieting and they're always eating less, like that, like you just alluded to, if they need to eat more food, if they're always eating too little because they're afraid they're going to gain weight. Now that's adding stress to the body. So yeah, that slows things down.
That's something to keep in mind. Like, stop looking to what you're doing in the gym as the reason for you having a slower metabolism. You should be trained to build muscle because muscle is metabolic fuel, but it's what you do outside of the gym. And that they were also blaming her HRT. Like, no, doofus. ask her better questions. But the whole reel was, it's okay to want to lose weight. It's just that losing weight isn't the end goal. It's just on the way to the goal. So
Yes.
bringing it back to what I wanted you to talk about with this whole, like, your environment doesn't just mean your physical, tangible environment. It's those that you interact with. It's your social media feed. It's everything that you consume.
Yeah. Yeah. There's people do this all the time. They have some kind of a relationship, they break up, and then they just move to a new city thinking that everything's going to be better. So like you said, it's not just the physical environment. Sometimes somebody might have to move to a different physical environment to nurture what they want to do. You want to be in Hollywood, maybe living in bumblefuck Wisconsin in the middle of nowhere isn't going to help you get on TV. So you might have to actually move physical environment, but we keep the same environment and then we expect to be successful in some kind of a transformation. You have all this food in the house that's quote unquote for the kids, and then you keep eating it, or you're surrounding yourself with the same people that are not encouraging you to exercise and be outside. So if you're doing nothing to change your environment, it's going to be very, very difficult. You can't plant a seed on the concrete and expect anything to grow. You can water it all day. You can give it sunshine. It's not going to do anything. You can, if you're trying to grow a garden, that was my post, which we were talking about before here. If you're trying to grow a garden, an actual vegetable garden, you don't just throw seeds in your grass in the front yard and expect there to be some beautiful tomatoes and asparagus growing. You would set up the environment. You'd have some raised beds. You'd have some irrigation. You would do things to make it easier for this to grow. And then you have to still do the work. You don't set up the environment, spread the seed, come back a year later and be like, how come there's not tomatoes growing? So it is this combination of setting up your environment and the work that goes into what you're trying to accomplish at the end of it.
You said so much there, my God. Okay, so something that kind of alludes to is, you can get a coach all you want, but you need to do the work still. You need to put in the hard work. And as I actually mentioned on the post that I just put up too, is you can force something as hard as you want. You can think more push, more time, more money, more energy, throw it all at it. But if the seed's on concrete, you're just amplifying what's already faulty, which is literally what I said. Like, losing weight fast, like literally going to buy the seed and planting it and being like, woo, I'm planting a seed. That's all great until it doesn't grow. Or even just like putting in a seed into like an environment and then just like putting some kick-ass fertilizer on it and just leaving it. Yeah, so what? Weeds are gonna grow. All this other shit's gonna happen. It might rain, it might storm and pull out the seed. You still need to attend to it. But then the other thing you mentioned, it's almost like when there are messages online and people are just sifting for information without actually taking one or getting a coach. Get a freaking coach instead of, like, there are a couple of girls that always ask questions. I see them asking questions on all the people that I follow, like posts and stuff. Oh, so how about this? Oh, but, and then when they respond to my stories, it's almost like, what are you doing? How about this? I'm like, she didn't reply when I said this. I'm like, it sounds to me like you're just confused about what you should be doing, because you're always asking what other people are doing.
And yeah, because everybody's like, they think they're missing this one thing. Like, what's the one thing? I remember being at a nutrition seminar and these guys were, it was just not a good seminar. These guys were trying to sound really smart. And I'm like, these people are not understanding what you're talking about. They started talking about the glycemic index and glycemic load and talking about how carrots, and I understood what their point was, but talking about how carrots are high in the glycemic index, but it's low in the glycemic load. So you don't just stare at the glycemic index and be afraid of things, because carrots are high, but it's not going to have this response with your blood sugar because the load is low. And I'm sitting there thinking, somebody thinks they're fat because they eat carrots. That's what I'm thinking. And somebody raises their hand and she's like, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, like, this sounds like it's a made up thing. She's like, so I eat a lot of carrots. Like, that's like my favorite snack. Is that why I'm not losing weight? And it's like, that's what she was holding on to. Everything that was said, all it was, this is the one thing that might be causing this problem. And then people do the same thing on the opposite side of the spectrum. What's the one thing I could do that will fix my problem?
I love that. Like, there are always people looking for what's wrong with them. Like, people are always saying, why am I broken? Or what am I doing wrong? And I pull, like, as much as I love it when there is a lot of context in the messages that I get, as soon as someone says, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, first of all, read the last line that you wrote and reword that. You are doing nothing wrong. Like,
Yeah.
You might be, but always looking for what you're doing wrong instead of what you're doing right isn't going to help the thing. It's almost like you're focusing on the weeds instead of focusing on what you can, instead of focusing on like the flowers that can undo the weeds. Like, focus on what you can physically do. The weeds are out of your control because you don't have pliers. So why don't you focus on the pliers? You totally don't use pliers for weeds, but I'm not a gardener.
I was following you.
But let's just say you got the pliers and you like plied them out, or whatever it is that you use for your garden. I'm sorry, I'm not a green thumb. I have no interest in it.
I thought maybe pliers was a phrase for a tool you guys have down there. I was like, cool. It's a weed puller. They call them pliers.
Okay, so it's just called a weed. That's guys, did you hear that? It's just called a weed puller. Sometimes
I just use my hands.
Yeah, is that true? But
They do have to.
The fact that you said weed puller to pull out weeds, it's kind of obvious, weed puller. And it's almost, what's that? There's that law, the Hans something law, where people always try to find the most complex answer to a simple solution. But the simple solution was literally Hans plier. The simple solution was literally weed puller, not the plier. But we're trying to find complex terms for simple shit. Like, that's what people do with their weight loss.
Yeah, and people don't give things enough time to realize that it could have been working. You know, they stop at the first sign of resistance, or the scale went up, you know, a couple of times over the last few weeks. I must be doing something wrong, and they back off. But there's always this fear, and I think it's understandable because of all the information that's out there. You know, it's like, I just saw a video on intermittent fasting. Maybe that's the thing. I just saw this, where people got to maybe put some blinders on. And that's where I like the idea of the coach. You know, some people, they hire a coach thinking it's going to do everything. They just think, oh, if I hire a coach, then I'll listen. And a lot of them are not ready to listen. Like, somebody has to know, I know that I'm lacking the accountability and I need the accountability, and I'm yearning for that accountability, and that those reminders from a coach that it's okay when things don't go perfectly. So that's the value in the coach, is that you don't have to get distracted by all the stuff you're seeing online. You ask your coach and they could say, no, this is a normal response to what we've been doing. Give it a couple of days and watch what happens. I mean, how many times do you have a client that might bug out, the scale went up after they had a perfect day, and you're like, this is normal. I've seen this hundreds of times. Ignore it. Give it 2 days, 3 days. You'll be fine. I had one woman text me on a Monday after like a bad weekend or whatever it might've been. She's like, up a lot of weight, like more than, it was like 7 pounds. And she wasn't big enough to have a 7-pound bump. It was a strange one. Or she had a good weekend, whatever it was. I'm like, this is weird. There's something going on. What? Maybe it's a response to some type of thing that you ate where there's some inflammation going on. I go, give it 3 days before you start crying. She's like, I'm going to cry. I'm like, give me till Thursday before you start crying. Just give me till Thursday. Then Thursday, she was at like a new low. So like, she had this spike, panicked, where a lot of people would then pull back, stop eating, overtrain. And by Thursday, the scale hit a new low. And I'm like, I've seen this before. It was a huge jump. I haven't seen a jump like that on somebody her size. But then by Thursday, it was back down. Without a coach, it could have been a totally different course. You know, so it's nice to have those reminders and that little guidance without being distracted by all the pretty things that are on the internet.
I liked that bit. It could have been a totally different course, and people don't realize that. And something I wanted to touch on was the patience part, because it's like, we're giving you the reminders that this is normal and that it's going to take a little learning time. If like, I have a lady, for example, that was not even willing to do the conversations because she just wanted to keep calling foods good and bad and just keep repeating the same patterns over and over again, but not actually go through the learning process. So she kept going back to the base, like to the start. And it's just like, it's patience. Like, you don't have patience to learn. You want the answers and the quick fixes, but you're not realizing that doing that same shit over and over is taking longer than just doing a learning curve. And I just wanted to say, I don't use the scales. I hate the scales. I rather people never use them, for the simple fact that it's that dopamine spike of that whole identity of, we're chasing the scale going down now. We're chasing these compliments going down now. And now your identity is attached to that. You can't stay there forever. And I saw someone who's like a really, really good coach, who's really good in her mindset, get affected by the scale one day. And she's like, I had to whine over it for like 2 days, and then I got over it, because she's in a building phase now. And like, this is a coach that I saw online who's a really good coach, and she had it affect her for 2 days in her maintenance phase, in her building phase. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you're never immune to these things that we hold ourselves to because we just attached our identity to it. And I was like that too, and I could easily be like that too, because I could attach myself to like a certain range that I'm usually seeing my body around, and then if I see my body go above that, holy shit, I need to get my weight back down. But I'm feeling fine, I look amazing. Like, that shit doesn't matter when all of a sudden now a scale's taken over.
Yeah, and there's a time and a place, I think, for people to be paying attention to scale, and there's a time and a place for them not to be. And anytime a client seems to be affected by the scale on a weekly basis, it's let's get away from the scale. Let's focus on these other things. For some people, hey, this is important to know. One, I'd like people to become less emotionally sensitive to the scale. So let's just get used to looking at it as a data point. You know, it will make sure that we're in an appropriate deficit or an appropriate surplus, or let's make sure that we are building maybe maintenance up and we're not seeing the scale skyrocketing. So there is a time where I like them to be on the scale, but like you said, if they're on an emotional roller coaster because of the scale, I want them to take a break from the scale, because somebody could be feeling great, all pumped up, feeling great. They feel like they look good in the mirror. And then they get on the scale and they're up 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, maybe 1 kilo. And they bug out, where it's like before you got on the scale, you looked in the mirror and you thought you looked great. And in your head, you thought you were going to be down a little bit, and you got on and you were up a little bit. Now, all of a sudden you're looking at yourself differently, but you just looked at yourself in the mirror and you loved what you looked at. Yeah. And then you saw a number and it changed how you felt. So it's wild how it all works. But yeah, everybody's in a different spot with if they can handle the scale or not. And it'd be great to get people to a place where they're not looking at it and focusing on it.
Yeah, it's this mindset thing, which is why it's so important to focus on mindset first and actually get really clear on why you're doing what you're doing, because you can't get to where you want to be with a faulty mindset. It doesn't matter how advanced you are. If I had a faulty mindset, my body would not be changing, because I would not be pushing myself in the gym hard enough. It's just that everything has a different level. It's like playing a video game. Like, the hard that we're going to talk about, every level has its own level of hards. But for example, you beat down your enemies. I'm going to think of Spyro, because Spyro is the only game that I know. In Spyro, you don't get more people coming to shoot you. You have certain enemies and you have to do certain things, and then everything gets easier as you defeat the enemies along the way. You don't just keep getting more and more enemies. So you defeat those things, and then there's less and less, and then it starts to get easier. You can stay on level 1 if you want, but who wants to stay on level 1? People want to be on level 100. So stay there for as long as you need to stay there. Accumulate what you need to accumulate. Get comfortable there as long as you want to get comfortable, but don't stay there too long. Level yourself up and face new enemies, face new hards. Hard isn't something to fear.
Yeah. And if you jump to level 10, if I tried to play Fortnite, which is a very popular game here for kids, if I tried to play that against my son, who's 9, he would destroy me, because I never played. I never learned. So we have these people who are trying to be on level 10 in the fitness or health space. How come that person doesn't count calories? How come blah, 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 blah? Well, they're on level 10. You're on level 1. You know, let's go slow. Stop comparing yourself to these people who are on level 10. It's not going to happen. But like you said, as you get used to level 1, cool, you move on to the next level. And it's going to be harder than level 1, but you might not even notice how much more difficult it is, because you're already used to level 1. Once you beat level 2, you go to level 3. It's way harder than level 1, but you're already used to level 1 and 2. So now level 3 doesn't seem so bad. It's a challenge. But that's like with working out. It never gets easier. You just get used to it. Like, you know, you're not staying always lifting a 30-pound dumbbell. Once you get used to that, you move the weight up. So it's always going to be hard. You just get used to that hard. You know, you get used to the challenge, you get used to the discomfort. And that's a great place to be when you're used to it and you know how you'll feel after you accomplish that workout.
Yeah. And it's kind of you create the habit of just showing up for yourself regardless. Yes. And
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I don't know whether you heard my quote ages ago. It's almost like you have been on Spotify your whole life, but then you update to Spotify Premium, and then now that's all you're on. And then you go to a gym or you pop in someone's car and all of a sudden there's an ad playing. Mate, did you not update to Spotify Premium? Like you don't even remember that there
Yeah.
were ads playing because you're so used to where you're playing at right now. But I think it's really important to talk about food in this sense because people feel like it's always going to be hard to track your calories or it's always going to be hard to track your food. It's like it's hard because you've never freaking done it before. Don't be so hard on yourself. Allow people are scared to fuck up and to overeat a limit when you don't even know how to track in the first place because people think that if they fuck up, they're going to get super fat overnight. Like you need to allow yourself that trial and error gap, that buffer room to learn because once you learn, you become a lot more competent, a lot more confident, and then you can actually direct the ship in any direction you want to go.
Yep. Yeah. It's just like learning how to drive. And nobody gets a little fender bender in a parking lot and is like, I'm never driving again. Driving's not for me. Fuck this. If they keep going, oh, that sucks. I learned something from that. And they move on and they continue to drive because they see the value in being able to get from point A to point B with a car. They don't want to walk everywhere. They can't walk maybe 30 miles to get to work every single day. So they need to be able to drive a car. So when you see the value in paying attention to food, when you see the value in working out, you're willing to deal with the backsliding or the missteps or the falls and the mess ups. It's not a big deal because it's all part of that learning process to be able to drive that car better.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, as you drive that car and you, for example, save more money, you can do more things to that car. You can get like super stereo or whatever. But I want to bring up another post that you wrote because I took my own meaning on it. It's funny how people will use a healthy person who dies quickly as an example of why not to do the healthy shit. That message I wanted to bring out is people absorb the information, they believe the information, they look for information, they follow people that put out the same information that kind of confirms the stories that they want to believe, that they think is right. And then when you tell them otherwise, it's like, yeah, but so-and-so said this. But it's like, yeah, because all you're trying, it's almost like that lady, the only thing that she wanted to believe is that there was something that was causing her to be fat or whatever it was. And she blamed the carrots because that's all she was looking for. She was looking for that one thing that is why she can't lose weight. And everyone's looking for that one thing, but every one thing that you one thingly find is because you have that one vision on that one thing, but you're not allowing yourself to zoom the fuck out and actually look at what's going on. But then on the other flip side of the coin, it's because I saw this ages ago with someone that I used to talk to. She was following all these body positive people, these people that were like you said, like these body love your body, ooh, very, very, but she wanted to lose weight. But everything she was consuming was saying the otherwise. So everything she was doing was literally nothing. She would start and then she'd overwhelm herself and then make all the excuses of why she overwhelmed herself and do nothing. And then she would fall off and then come back 6 months later, want to try again. But literally everything that she shared in her stories and everything that she followed, I don't watch her stories anymore, but all her stories were people confirming the trauma that she went through in the past. I should have mentioned that part before. Like she always blamed everything on the trauma she went through with her mom, the trauma that she went through, instead of just owning where she is now. And every single time she tried, this can be relatable to anyone. I want you to try and think of client examples or try to make this practical because this is something I feel is really important. She was, I guess, using the trauma and looking up podcasts, looking up YouTube videos, reading books on all things that will help her through her trauma, seeing psychologists for her trauma. Everything was trauma focused. She never focused here. It was all trying to figure out why she was the way she was. Why am I doing this? Oh, let's dig down this rabbit hole. Oh, I just recognize this. This is so cool. I'm starting to learn myself more. Let's dig down this rabbit hole. She's never once tried to move this way. It's always moving this way. It's like, how can you move that way if you're too busy living there? Oh yeah, but I need to go through this stuff because this is why I am the way that I am and why I can't move forward. I'm like, no, you're not actually. Yeah, take it.
Yeah, well, it's like if you're going on WebMD, because WebMD.
Yeah.
It's like diagnose stuff. Like if you have a pain somewhere and you keep looking at WebMD to go, okay, yeah, my leg is broken based on all the symptoms here. Let me find some pictures. Yep, that's how my leg is swollen. It's broken. Yep, it's definitely broken. All right, let's just double check. Let's just keep looking. Oh, you know what? It might get infected. Yep, it's getting infected. Yep, it's getting. And you're doing all this thing, and things are getting worse and worse and worse. And that's confirmation bias. Yet you could have gone to the doctor. You could have started the healing process instead of continuing to focus on investigating the problem that you have, and then you get nowhere.
I love that. I love that. And probably you can think of some examples as well, but it's like instead of trying to focus on what you're moving away from, and I can't wait to get Karen. I don't know whether you know Karen Nordin. She's a behavior change expert.
Okay.
Because everything I do is behavior coaching in a way as well. But
Yeah.
Everything I say is you want to pull, not a push goal. She calls it approach versus avoidance goal. But if all
Yeah, I
you
like that.
focus on is, I want to use my one because it's mine and I know how to talk about it. But if all you focus on is being pushed away from fear of this, being in pain, all the stuff that you hate and are uncomfortable with, you're amplifying that. And that's all you're going to focus on. And I have this girl who's the most amazing lady, but every single view on whatever she sees or says, whenever I ask her questions and to write them down, you look at it and you automatically feel disgusting. You automatically feel like you hate yourself reading what she writes because it's so negative. Everything is like, oh, but this, but that. Like she has so much potential, but if all you do is put a negative spin on things, you aren't even allowing yourself the chance. Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
why?
Well, it's even like I was at my son's rugby practice the other day, and they're doing this drill where the one kid has to run and grab the flag before they can get a try. You know, put the ball down in the end zone, and every kid is like looking back to see if the kid grabbed the flag, and I'm yelling like, "Don't look back! Just keep looking for the goal. Keep looking for the goal." You know, and it's like you keep looking back, and it's the same thing like in AA with an alcoholic. If they're in AA or NA, Narcotics Anonymous, they're told every time you focus on not drinking, you're focusing on drinking. So we have to redirect our focus to something else. Now in AA, they say, turn your focus to God. But if you're don't drink, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. I'm thinking about drinking. Don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this. I'm thinking about eating. So instead of thinking about what I can't eat, think about what you can eat. Instead of thinking about all these things from our past, let's think about the things that we can do now. And that's exactly what you're saying. We're not running from stuff, we're running towards something. And what are we running towards? Because we're constantly focusing on what we're running from. We're focusing on that thing. That is the negative thing. That is that weight on our back.
That, oh, I have to send you the, you should listen to my podcast that I did with Sam Forget on Transformation Talks, because I talk about these in terms of shipwrecks. That's what I call them. They're shipwrecks, and they're in your backpack. And you know the analogy of the ladders. There's the ladders with the small rungs, and then the ladders with the big rungs. You can try to maneuver your way up to the bigger rungs, but for every rung that you take, you have more to fall. Or you could work your way up this one, and it's going to take a lot longer to actually climb up that ladder because you have to put in all this effort. But the thing is, you never approach a journey without baggage, and that's the backpack we carry. Different people have different amounts of shipwrecks, of different sizes, of different amounts. The size is harder to break down. The smaller ones, they're easy to break down. But you could have heaps of big ones, heaps of small ones. But the thing is, as you go through the process, you can start to shut up the bricks. It's not just focusing on getting to the end goal or the end outcome of the ladders. You need to actually also focus on reducing the baggage, because the more you reduce the baggage, the faster you're going to be able to travel. So it's two different aspects of that. But if all you focus on is the fact that you have these backpack on your back, oh, I'm not going to make it up. I'm so tired. There's so much shipwrecks in here. And then you're just not going to have the same effort. My expressions. You're not going to have as much energy to actually climb up to the top. And I want you to relate this to both training and nutrition, because you make it sound so simple in its simple terms. So take that.
With, I get in which aspect are you set? You want me to take it with which part?
Leaving behind the old for the new and making easier choices, creating the environment to make easier choices, but also making it so you make easier choices instead of always looking for the most complex thing and
Yeah.
focusing
Yeah.
on all that you can't do.
Yeah. So I like to always, set the bar low, which sounds bad, but set the bar low. And if you're not currently doing it, it's not too little. I think most people, especially New Year's, the last few years, I usually post something along the lines of if you're not already doing it, it's not too little. So people think going for a walk, well, that's not going to do anything. Well, you're not even going for a walk now. Can you go for a walk? Yeah, but you're not doing it. So let's set the bar low and let's go for a walk. So it's they're looking for the ladders with the big rungs. They think they have to do these big change to create big change, but really it's the little changes that create the big change. And it's over time. And then all of a sudden it just becomes who you are. We think that we're going to be a certain way when we transform. But if you start doing those things now that you think you're going to do later, when you see somebody who loses a bunch of weight, who is really, really like morbidly obese, what they love about losing weight is how they're able to walk on the beach. They're able to go for a hike, all the things they weren't able to do before. They don't have to get a seatbelt extender on a plane. All the stuff that they can do. They're not sitting there going, I just feel good that I lost weight. That's not what they feel good about. They feel good about all the things that they can do. And how did they get there? They started doing those things. They started going for walks. Then all of a sudden it's, wow, I can go for a really long walk. I can hike now. Well, the first day of your transformation, maybe don't try to hike a mountain. These steps are way too big for somebody. So if you're not already doing it, it's not too little. Set the bar low, attainable things, get used to showing up for yourself. People don't create the habit of showing up for themselves. And I've even said to people before, I mean, a lot of people, their fear is even just going to the gym. Well, because you're picturing going to the gym and having to do some crazy workout. Just show up to the gym, show up, walk for 10 minutes and leave. Walk for 10 minutes, watch people exercise. You get to see, oh, that's how that machine works, and leave. Just show up.
Word patience.
What's that?
I'm inserting the word patience here. This is why it's important. Keep going.
But it's not even, I think sometimes too, we know that we need to be patient, we need to be consistent, but sometimes too, even when we're just like, I need to be patient, it's easy for the person to be like, well, when am I going to start seeing the results? Well, let's just focus on the action. Like that's what you said at the beginning, these goal-oriented mindset is a lot of times the problem. We need to be action oriented, not goal oriented. So what action steps am I doing? If you're afraid to go to the gym because you're thinking about all the things that are intimidating about it, just get in the habit of showing up. Chances are, if you set the goal of doing a 10-minute walk, you'll probably walk more, but at least you're in the habit of showing up. Now you're not so intimidated by the gym. And then you can maybe, I'm going to go start using some machines now that I've watched how people are using them. So it's these small little things that make stuff less intimidating. And that's what creates the change over time. And yeah, patience comes with it. But if you take the expectations out of the way, then I think the patience will be much easier. Unmet expectations are the biggest killer to progress, as far as I'm concerned. They have this expectation of a result. They don't get it. So why bother? Which is what you were saying before. Why bother? Why bother? And then we identify ourselves. We label ourselves. I was looking at one of my old posts earlier today. Sometimes I'll scroll through and be like, oh, maybe I should repost that or reword it because I can't think of anything to post. And it was along those lines of we label ourselves. My family's all overweight. This is just how I am. This is who I am. It's not who you are. It's just the habits that you've gotten into. It's just the things that you do. But when you put that label on yourself of this is who I am, you're limiting your ability to be what you actually want to be because you've labeled yourself that, instead of saying, I'm just a person who hasn't been in the habit of going to the gym. I'm a person who maybe does this or doesn't do this. This is just things that I do. It's not actually who I am. So
use the words I am, but you need to be careful where you use them with, because one thing that holds a lot of moms back is that they identify as a mom. It's like, stop identifying as a mom. You have kids, but you are you. Like,
it's an aspect of my life.
Yeah, because if you're going to identify as, oh, but I'm a house mom, I'm a housewife, you're never going to put yourself first, because now everything that you want to do is for the kids, where in actual effect, nothing you're doing is for the kids, because you're not giving them quality time. You're complaining and feeling shit in your body. And this brings us back to the post that I loved that you put up, which is you're uncomfortable right now, but you're staying in your comfort zone. Think about that. You want to stay comfortable, but your comfortable is uncomfortable. Correct. Tell me how that makes sense.
Yeah. Something's going to be uncomfortable. You're either going to choose your discomfort through training, making good food choices, the people you surround yourself, the way you talk to yourself, or you will consequently just live an uncomfortable life. If you never choose the discomfort, you will be in discomfort. Either way, you're going to have some discomfort.
I love that. Exactly. It's almost like choosing your heart, but it's a better version of that. It's you're choosing your discomfort, and discomfort has a feeling and emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
Whereas hard doesn't. And I like emotions because emotions drive our actions. What discomfort do you choose? That is probably a really powerful question that I'm going to actually put into the thing below. But to sum it all up, I really want to talk about, because we spoke about weight a lot, we spoke about the process a lot, and how because I want to bring something of me back up again, because people can kind of attach to situations better. But I was completely fine with the scale. I remember when I was actually chasing it growing up, because I'm like, yay, I'm getting muscle. But then comp prep started. Good intentions. Then by the time comp preps were over, all I could do was focus on the scale going down. And when the scale wasn't going down, I felt like I was failing. Like all I could do was focus on the scale going up wasn't a win the same way it was anymore. And I wanted to tie this into the fact that your goal body, I did not have my goal body back then. I really did not. I was like a tiny little scrolly little thing. And yeah, no, we get to that little, but this is for anybody. Like you can lose weight, but still not look the way that you want. Your goal body has a lot more muscle than you think. And I want you to ram that home.
Yeah. I mean, we see these pictures maybe of somebody that transformed, and there's all this muscle that they're showing. And then the average person thinks I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to have these jacked delts. It's like, it's not the case. What made me think of that was the mountain, or whatever his name is, one of the strongmen guys, or the guy from Game of Thrones or something, lost a ton of weight and he's like jacked and shredded. And he just looked before like an overweight guy, power lifter guy. And then when he lost all the fat, he had this unbelievable body, and people think that they're going to look that way. But this guy spent years training. So when this person loses the fat, they're revealing this muscle. And so the average person who thinks they're going to lose weight, and then they're disappointed with the after picture to some degree, like, how come I don't look like that guy? Well, because you didn't lift weights. Your ideal body most likely has a lot more muscle, especially women, because even when you look at maybe a lean woman who has this toned, quote unquote, toned look, which is the marketing term. Tone means you have muscle with low body fat. That's all tone is. It's not just skinny. So most people, their ideal body has more muscle. They need to be focusing on weight training. It is by far, I mean, whenever I'm asked if I had to pick one for somebody to do weight training or cardio, weight training every time, without a shadow of a doubt, when it comes to metabolism, when it comes to being able to eat more carbs, when it comes to bone health, when it comes to functionality and mobility, all that stuff, weight training, absolutely by far over cardio.
Yeah, something that I wanted to touch on there because it's so important. I'm going to section this little bit here right now. There is something that someone said to me that I'm sure a lot of people would have said too, but at first, when for example, when I first started, I obviously got down to this lean position in comp prep, and I was looking at all these fit people online. Oh my God, I want her body. Oh my God, I want her body. Like that's the mentality I had. I just wanted other people's bodies, but I didn't look like it. But I thought that I just had to keep training my ass off, dieting my ass off, and I'm going to eventually build this amazing physique to look like her. You think that me doing the same shit, dieting the same way, training my ass off is going to get me that if I don't actually detach myself to grow? And then a girl said to me before, goal legs, I want your legs, blah, blah, blah. And every single time that we aren't in a deficit, she's pretty much living in the same place, because anything other than that place, she complains about the way her pants feel on her. Literally, just give it a little bit of time, like a week or 2 weeks, I don't like how fat I feel in my pants. I can't fit my pants on. I can't do anything with her without that. So it's like, okay, then let's just stay here. And then compare her progress photos. She's just like, my body hasn't changed. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You won't let me do the shit that actually will create the meaningful change. I sent her a photo of when I was I was 60 or 61 kilos back then. I don't really know where I am now. Last time I weighed myself, I was like 55, then I was 56, then I was 55. I don't know, because I weigh myself like once every 2 weeks just to like see where I am at, because I don't give a shit. But I'm around that. But I showed her a photo when I was 61, and she's just like, how long do I have to look like that for? I'm like, when I was 61, you wanted my body, but now that you see me now, you don't want that body. What the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
she was always saying, that's my goal body. Oh my God, your legs. And then I show it to her now compared to me now. And she's like, how, literally the question was, how long do I have to be there for? You're asking me how long? Like, people have such,
Yeah, and it's not. It's like even when we say these things about these people, it's not even them. It's the people that are selling this stuff to them. So it makes it so difficult, because things are sold in a quick way, and that this is attainable or that is attainable. Just like with kids, because I'm a high school teacher, and you see kids and you see these assemblies and speakers come in. It's like, you can be anything you want. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't be anything you want. I'll never be an NBA basketball player. I never had the genetic makeup to be an NBA basketball player. You can be whatever you want when you recognize your gifts. You can be whatever you want. And we're talking about a physical thing. Recognize how your body is structured, and then you could attempt to shape your body to what it can be, but you can't shape your body to what somebody else's body is. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? We compare so much to other people, and yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's obviously what she's doing. She's comparing herself to your body when it was that, what it is now. We compare ourselves to our old bodies when we were younger. I mean, how many people, I've had so many clients before being like, I can't believe I was so hard on myself when I weighed 50 pounds less. Like, I would die for that body now, but now they're 50 pounds heavier, and they realized they were so hard on themselves then. It's like, it's hard for people to get out of their own way in the moment. Even if that person lost 50 pounds, they might be happy, but it's like, I can lose more. I can get like that, instead of focusing on the actual goal of being happy, being able to move our bodies well, and treat ourselves well and love ourselves to health, that whole thing. But yeah, it's difficult. And then we struggle with it too. I'm sure you do at times. And I know I do, with that, body image issues and all that stuff. I don't think those things ever really completely go away for most of us, but I don't know.
for me, it's not the body image, because I'm okay with that, knowing that everything's under my control. For
Yeah.
me, it's more so the impatience. And I feel like that's something everybody needs to reconcile with, because it's just like, I just want this to happen now. And then it's also realizing that shit doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. Like, the reason I don't struggle with body image in that way is because I now know that I control everything that I do, and I can manipulate it the way that I want. If my body starts to show in a way that I don't like it, it's because of something that I did. So I just need to friggin' change that. But it's then, if something goes a certain way and then I need to go this way, and then whatever it is the patience of just letting the seed grow. Because I'm in a surplus right now, for example, and it can be really uncomfortable in the surplus. Like, just the fact that I'm pushing a different discomfort. Like, I'm like, I need to push my calories to 3,000. I need to push my calories to 3,000. I need to actually push them up. But it's so hard when we're being conditioned all the time not to not do this kind of stuff. And then
just drink olive oil. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that, like,
drink a half a cup of olive oil. That's 800 calories. You'll be good.
See, I'm someone that loves food volume. You should, like, the way that I fill my 3,000 calories is literally all veggies. The only thing that isn't whole food, so to speak, is my cereal, because I love cereal. But that's the thing. It's choosing your discomfort, but being friends with patience. But none of that exists without having the right focus to start with, which is what this whole conversation was about, which is what you were speaking about just then, because you need to actually be focused on the journey there, not just the outcome. Because if you're only focused on the outcome and then you say, oh, I lost all this weight, yeah, cool, you lost all the weight, now what are you going to do? You're not going to be happy once you put it back on because you didn't focus on the way there. So I think that kind of sums it up. So maybe you can tie that up into one little nutshell on how you don't actually want to become a shell. You want to have substance in the shell.
You want to be the nut inside the shell? Yeah, you're trying to be the shell. You want to be the nut inside the shell. Yeah, no, I think we kind of hit on all that stuff, and it's people need to be willing to put themselves through that process. I mean, you got to a place now where you're really secure with body image because you've put that work in of knowing that you can manipulate it, that you can do what you need to do. But the years of getting on stage and dealing with those body issues when you gain a few pounds after getting on stage and having these different goals, like you've been doing it for years, and I've been doing it for years as well. So when I'm not in the shape that I want to be in, I know it's my decisions. I'm not confused or lost. And when I work with clients, I want to help them at least not be confused and lost, because that's the stuff that breaks my heart more than anything. People who are doing everything that they know how to lose weight, getting all the diet foods or trying this thing, and they keep trying these things and they just don't know why they're not successful with it. I want people to at least know why they're failing, and how they can succeed, and then be able to make that decision. But I think it's putting yourself in it, being in it for the long haul, and just simply getting to the point of knowing that it doesn't end. You don't lose weight and then never work out or pay attention to your food again. There's no end to it. So why not be in it for the long haul? And even the phrase quick fix, everybody knows is not a permanent fix. It's called a quick fix. If you had a leak in a pipe in your house, you need a quick fix. The leak is going to come back until you permanently fix it. So there's quick fixes to patch things up maybe for a period of time, but it's not actually fixing it. We know it simply by the phrase quick fix. So understand that this is a lifetime process. This is just, you're changing a lifestyle. You're not changing your body. So once you get into that mindset of this is just what I do. I saw an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger just recently, and they're like, why do you still go to the gym? And he's like, why do I still eat breakfast? I ate breakfast yesterday. I ate breakfast for the last 70 years. Why do I still eat breakfast? I sleep every night. Why do I keep going to sleep every night? This is what I do, so lifestyle, health, fitness, our food, the way we treat ourselves, this is a lifelong, and I hate the word journey, but I'll say journey. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong process. It makes it, I think, a little bit easier to understand that it's not always gonna be a struggle, but it is a lifelong process. So let go of the quick fix stuff, be in it for the long haul, and your body and your mind will thank you.
That's the perfect way to end it. And so you can get a visualization of the quick fix. It's almost like a bucket under a leaking roof. Yeah, you're not dirtying or messing up the kitchen floor, but that water leak is going to cause a shit load of damage up there. And if you keep looking for a band-aids, everything up there, hey, I didn't think of it that way until now. Everything up there, like literally up there in your head, everything up there in your head is going to get more fucked up. Yeah. That actually really worked. I didn't think of it that way by saying up there. So take that, roll with it, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was great conversation. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'm going to put Jimmy's Facebook, Jimmy's Instagram handle down below. So go find that. And if you liked this, let me know. Come into my DMs and let me know what resonated with you. Message Jimmy as well if there's anything you want to say to him. But there is nothing I love more than all the messages I'm receiving about how much my podcasts have helped you and things that they've made you realize that you didn't once realize before, because it made you think that little bit deeper. So pause it and think just that little bit deeper.